The number one concern that people have when they're applying for a mortgage is if they're going to qualify or not. They think that a lender is going to laugh them out of the room. It is wild. So, if you're feeling that way, or if you're thinking, gosh, I'm in the Bay Area, how the heck could I ever qualify for a mortgage, let alone make the payments? We're going to run through all of that today. I just got off the phone with somebody, rebuilt the spreadsheet that I had built for him to make this more applicable for a video. So these are real numbers that we're going to run through. This is on the lower end of a purchase, I'll be honest. And this guy does okay. He's a software engineer in this scenario. But I think even if not, this is a single guy, even if not, there is a pretty good chance that even if you aren't a software engineer pulling in six figures, if you've got two people on an application, you'll probably be pulling in six figures if you're in the Bay Area, and you could probably make this happen. So, anyways, we'll jump into this right now. And by the way, I've got the spreadsheet here. We will drop this. I will drop this in the description below. It's a Google spreadsheet. I'll give you the rights to mess around with it and play around with it and all that fun stuff. So you can do all of this at home. If you got questions, hit me up on the comments. Let's dive in. All right. So he was looking at an $850,000 property. He's a software engineer, but he's newer to the software engineer career. So he hasn't saved up a ton of money yet. And that's okay. It's totally fine. So he's putting 5% down and he's going to borrow the other 95%. And I want to bring this up real quick. He is borrowing 95%. That means the majority of the money on the table is not his, it's the bank's. And even though he is not, and you should not plan on even having a remote possibility of defaulting, if he did, he's out this. The bank would be out that. Okay. I've got a placeholder interest rate of 7% as of recording February 7th, 2024. That's a conservative interest rate, and that's a placeholder. I'm not quoting that rate for all you regulators out there. And by the way, interest rates change a couple times during the day on average, every single day. It's like quoting a stock. It's going to be different tomorrow. So just know you can't lock in an interest rate until you're in contract on a home. Again, not quoting that rate. Mortgage payment with these hypothetical scenarios, unquoted scenario here, $53.72. Insurance, $150 a month. That's a total guess. I think that's a conservative guess at this price point. But if you're in a high fire area, it's going to be more. If you're buying a condo and the exterior is covered by the HOAs, it's going to be less. Okay. And you shop for this yourself. Property taxes, we use 1.25% as an estimate based on the purchase price, which is $850,000. And that's on a monthly basis that I'm showing you that. And then mortgage insurance, we're not going to dive in too deep on mortgage insurance on this video, but anytime you're putting less than 20% down, you're going to have to solve for mortgage insurance in some way. And this insurance does not protect you, unlike this insurance up here. This insurance protects the lender. God forbid you do default, they are protected and they won't lose as much money as they would have if you didn't have it. So anytime you have less than 20% down, you're gonna have to solve for it in some way. That all adds up to $65.83 a month before we have an HOA, because I didn't put it in there, before you have repairs and maintenance and utilities. Okay. Before you throw up all these things on why the heck would I ever do that, let's just run through how you qualify first, because that's kind of the basis of this video. And then we'll talk about why would you ever do that. So there is something called a debt to income calculation. It is what lenders use along with other calculations to see if you qualify for a mortgage. Debt to income here, we add the monthly amount. So this number that we got up here, Okay. And then whatever's showing up on your credit report. So this is going to be credit cards, student debt, car loans. My friend here didn't have a lot. He had a very small credit card bill. That's it. But if you have a $600-700 car bill every month, you'll have to put it in here. Okay. So that's 6681. Salary, I think that's self-explanatory. Monthly salary, maybe I should point out. He had a small bonus, but any other kind of income, I put the monthly amount, right? If it's $4,000 a year, and he gets it twice a year, right? You know how to do the math. So that's $14,000 before income, before anything else is taken out, and that's what a lender is going to use. Okay, so we put the 6 over the 14, and we get a percentage, and that is your debt to income ratio. Now, the rule of thumb out there is 45%, but sometimes it has to be less, and sometimes it can be a whole heck of a lot more. This is a lender thing. I would not use this for your own purposes. You should have a budget, a monthly budget, and you should figure out if this payment makes sense for you. Okay. But before you do that, let's look at the tax savings first. I am not a CPA. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm a little afraid even to put this on the web, but I think it's important to know how this works. I'm going to give you some links in the spreadsheet and in the description here, so you can do your own math and check everything. Because again, I'm not a CPA or tax advisor. I can't legally give you tax advice. But in a hypothetical scenario, this single individual, his standard deduction as of 2024, and we'll go. Let's just dive right in. Let's go here. Is as of 2024 is 14,600. Okay, so that means that the first 14,600 that he makes, he does not have to pay the IRS. After that, he's got to pay his fair share, and you can see here how all of that works out. Okay. That's the standard deduction. As a renter, he doesn't have any deductions. Now, there's a lot more that goes into this, but just the property itself, you will want to take an itemized deduction. That itemized deduction would be $52,500 in interest. You can see here interest up to $750,000 of debt, and that means that he will have that amount to write off for a bit of time, because you can only write off up to $750,000 of debt. So if your loan amount is larger than that, that is what it is, but you can only write off the interest on the $750,000 of it. So in that scenario, it would be $52,500, and then you're going to be maxed out at a $10,000 state and local tax. That's what SALT stands for. So all in, you'd be looking at writing off $62,500 as opposed to $14,600, which is a $47,900 difference. Okay. Now that's not money in the bank. That is essentially income that you don't have to pay tax on. Now, I threw the state in here because we live in the Bay Area and we pay state tax because we're in California. That's sunshine tax. But the state tax is going to be different. I threw the link right here for you. State itemization is going to be a little bit different. It's actually a little bit more friendly, in my opinion. So I think this is a conservative way and a simple way to show it to you. But nonetheless, 9.3% for most people in California does go higher than that. And then I'm using 24%, but you can see here that, if you make over, for instance, $100,000, you'd technically be in the 32% bracket. But I want to be safe. I want to be conservative. That would be a savings of $15,951, right? So that's on top of the refund that he got. And he got close to, I think it was just under $2,000 last year. And he's expected to get that this year. And if he buys a home, then next year when he files his taxes, he'd be looking at almost a $16,000 deduct or a refund, right? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Almost a $16,000 addition to his almost $2,000 refund. So 16 plus 2, 18. Sorry. Yeah. That is a big number, right? I like the 2,000 refund. I feel like that's pretty average. Anything more than that, you're giving an interest-free loan to the government, and you should probably change your withholdings. You can go to the TurboTax and fill out a W-4 calculator, TurboTax W-4 calculator, right? And I think it's a DE-4, something like that. Don't quote me on that for California. But yeah, fill this out, kind of walks you through it, and you can change your withholdings. Or even better yet, talk to a tax preparer. But what does this mean? Well, if it's $16,000 a year and you change your withholdings because you don't want to give $16,000 as a loan to the government and not get any interest, because you could stick that in the bank and right now get, I don't know, 5%. Fed's not going to give you that. California's not going to give you that. Change your withholdings. You're going to get $1,300 and change more take home. Put it towards this big expensive thing that we just got. Okay. And now that payment is going to feel a little better. Okay. Not a lot, right? 66 something, 53 something, right? But at least it's a little bit better. Okay. Now, I like to use this feels like number. I don't think it's magic. I think it's real. Okay. Obviously, check your sources. Make sure that your scenario is going to be something like this, right? Your mileage may vary. Talk with a CPA, talk with somebody smarter and more intelligent when it comes to taxes than me. But typically in the Bay Area, because our home prices are high, because our taxes are high, you get more write-offs. Okay. That said, this is kind of like going to your department store and buying a bunch of stuff, and getting, buying it 20% off and feeling like you saved money. Well, you spent money, right? Same thing. You bought a house, you're spending money. It's expensive, right? You're just spending a little less money once you figure out how this all works. So $5,300. Now, let's say the same home rents for $3,500. Okay. That is going to be a big difference. Okay. Why would somebody spend $1,850 and change for that? Right? Why would somebody spend more to own a home? Okay. Well, let's jump over here. I'm a bit of a nerd. I apologize, but I like this. Oh, it looks like it's a little broken too. Let's figure this out here. I renamed the sheet here, so it's called purchase. There we go. All right. So when you take out your loan, you're going to owe the amount that you took out. But every month when you make this fixed payment, you're going to pay a small amount, right, to the principal. Okay. And the remainder is interest, right? And it's front loaded, lots of interest, a little bit of principal. And over time, you're going to have less and less interest and more principal. The payment, right? Did I do this math right? I did, right? The payment is going to be the same. Okay. So for instance, if you paid a big old amount of money, the very first payment, then you're going to you're going to pay less interest and more principal the very next payment, right? So payment stays fixed, interest, principal, they're going to vary. Why would somebody spend $1,800 more every month to own a place? Well, two things. One, I think you could probably guess appreciation. Bay Area, again, mileage may vary. If you're buying a condo in the outskirts of the Bay Area, it may not do as well as a single family home. Certain zip codes, certain neighborhoods, homes on busy streets, whatever it might be, the appreciation is going to be different. And appreciation really doesn't matter a ton until you sell your property, but it's still something that you should be aware of because your net worth is increasing every single month as long as you've got appreciation, not depreciation. But on average, it's increasing every single month. And you can see at 5%, which is what I plugged in here on average, which I think is pretty fair and what we should expect in the next 5-10 years on average. You're looking at more appreciation than what you're paying. Okay. Because you're getting appreciation on the full $850,000. Okay. The other thing you should be aware of is if let's put 3,500 just to be safe. Your rent, and this is the crazy thing, your rent when you sign up for this lease, month one, you're going to pay $3,500, for instance. Every 12 months, it's going to go up, right? Whereas, let me share a different screen here. Whereas when you refi, your payments are going to be less. When your home appreciates and you have more equity, you can get rid of your mortgage insurance. Your payments are going to be less. It's almost the inverse of rent, where rent you pay the most at the end, right? And mortgages and owning a home, you're going to pay the most up front typically. You can see here, this is the 19 dots that the Fed places. And this is them forecasting what they think the Fed rate will be in the next 3 years up to 2026. And you can see that trend is going down. Okay. And it's a kind of a scatter plot because you've got, different members thinking different things. But for the majority, you can see there's that kind of middle of the pack and it's going down. Now, mortgage rates and Fed rates aren't identical. They're not something that, follow lockstep, but it's a good indication that mortgage rates will come down. Mortgage rates do move ahead of Fed movement. So if the mortgage market thinks that the Fed will cut, you'll see rates come down. All right. Back here. All right. So you can see as your rent goes up, right, your payment's going to stay fixed. And in the next couple of years, you're likely changing your payments. You're likely rewriting your loan. You're likely reducing or altogether eliminating your mortgage insurance. So these calculations get better. And here's the crazy thing. Let's say you remove your mortgage insurance. Okay. And so now your payment goes down. Okay. Let's say your rate goes down in the near future. Right? Let's see. I'm going to subtract out that and add this in. All right. You can see that over time, your payments are going to go down. But the crazy thing is, your income, unless you're at the very end of your career and you're retiring soon, your income should be going up. So you're drawing a line in the sand. You're saying, unlike my rent, which will continue to go up, right? I am going to have a mortgage that will stay at least flat, if not go down over time. Pretty wild stuff. Now, These two items that I highlighted, those are the two items that are variable. Your insurance, especially right now, uh, expected to go up, you know, a bit every year. Um, Property taxes in the state of California can only go up 2% a year. So 2% a year, for instance. So I don't know, $15 more a month. Insurance, maybe $15 more a month. It depends on where you're at in the kind of landscape of insurance. But all said and done, this is something that's doable for this gentleman. It's doable for you. Um, and by all means, what does this mean? Well, right, this is what he's making on a yearly basis. That's essentially 80 grand if you have two people bringing that in, right? That's very doable. I was just driving to a doctor's appointment and I saw that Santa Cruz is hiring bus drivers. No experience needed. They say the pay rate is anywhere from $25 to $40. Okay. So two bus drivers could afford this, right? No experience needed. And the down payment is 5%, right? There's that 42,500 number there. So within a little bit of time, you can come up with that in one way or another and buy your first home. This does not have to be your forever home, but it is a great way to kind of get into the market and let the real estate market work for you as opposed to against you. I'll drop the spreadsheet down in the description below. If you got questions, hit me up on the comments. Thanks so much.